The black car slowed down on an empty street at 2 in the morning. Dante Marchetti looked out the window and saw something strange. A young woman was sitting alone at a bus stop, wrapped in a thin jacket, fast asleep on the cold bench. No bus was coming. No one else was around. Something about the sight made him sit up straight. He told his driver to stop the car right there. Dante stepped out into the cold night air. He was a man people feared across the whole city, a man who never stopped for strangers. But tonight was different. He walked closer to the bench and looked at the sleeping woman. Her name, he would later learn, was Elena. Her hands were pulled into her sleeves and her face was pale from the cold. As he looked closer, he noticed a mark on her wrist and another near her jaw, hidden under her hair. His eyes narrowed. Something was wrong here. He crouched down and spoke softly, careful not to frighten her. Elena's eyes opened suddenly, wide with fear, and she jumped back against the bus stop wall. Her breathing became fast. She looked at him like she expected him to hurt her. Dante raised his hand slowly and told her he meant no harm. He said the streets were not safe at this hour and asked if she had somewhere to go. Elena said nothing. Her silence told him everything he needed to know. Dante offered her a warm place to stay for the night, nothing more. Elena hesitated, gripping the strap of her bag like a shield. She had learned not to trust men who spoke kindly, especially ones who looked as powerful as him. But the wind was cutting through her jacket and her body was shaking from the cold. After a long, tense moment, she nodded, just once. Inside the car, Elena sat as far from him as she could, her eyes fixed on the passing streetlights. Dante did not ask questions. He simply told his driver to head toward one of his quiet houses across town, a place watched over by his trusted housekeeper. Elena stayed silent the whole ride, her fingers twisting the edge of her sleeve. When they arrived, an older woman named Rosa greeted them at the door with a warm blanket and a cup of tea. Elena flinched at first, unused to kindness, but Rosa's gentle voice slowly eased her fear. Dante stood back, watching from a distance, his sharp eyes softening as he saw her shoulders finally relax. Before leaving, Dante paused at the door and looked back at her one more time. He did not know her story yet, but he knew enough. Someone had hurt her, and somehow, on an ordinary night on an empty street, he had found her right when she needed someone the most. As his car pulled away into the dark city, one question stayed on his mind. Who was Elena running from, and why did she look so afraid of being found? The next morning came slowly. Elena woke up in an unfamiliar room, sunlight spilling through the curtains. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she remembered the bus stop, the car, the tall stranger with careful eyes. Her heart raced until she saw Rosa standing in the doorway with a plate of warm food and a gentle smile, and slowly her fear began to fade. Rosa did not ask questions either. She simply set the plate down and told Elena to eat, to rest, to take her time. Elena picked at the food, her mind far away. She thought about the life she had left behind, the fear she had carried for so long, and the strange, unexpected safety she now found herself in. She did not know yet that the man who saved her was more powerful and more dangerous than anyone she had ever known. Over the next few days, Dante returned to the house more often than Rosa had ever seen him visit anyone. He would sit across the room, never too close, and ask simple questions. How did she sleep? Did she need anything? Elena answered carefully at first, giving short replies, testing whether his patience would run out like everyone else's had. It never did. Slowly, without meaning to, Elena began to talk. She spoke about a man named Victor, someone she had once trusted completely, someone who controlled every part of her life. She described how her days had been ruled by fear, how she had planned her escape for months before finally running that night, with nothing but a small bag and the clothes on her back. Dante listened without interrupting, his jaw tightening with every word. He did not tell her who he was, not fully. She knew he was wealthy, that people treated him with a strange mix of respect and caution. But she did not yet know the truth about the world he ruled. For now, all she knew was that he had not asked for anything in return for his kindness, and that alone made him different from every man she had known before. Alina began to notice small things about the house. The guards who stood quietly near the gates, the way Rosa lowered her voice whenever Dante's name came up, the careful respect in every servant's eyes. She started to understand that this man was not simply rich. He was someone with real power, someone people feared. And yet, around her, he was patient, calm, almost gentle. One evening, sitting in the garden as the sun went down, Alina finally asked him directly who he really was. Dante studied her for a long moment before answering honestly. He told her about his world, about the responsibilities he carried, about the reputation that followed him everywhere. He watched her face carefully, expecting her to pull away in fear. Instead, Alina stayed. She sat quietly, taking in his words, weighing them against the kindness she had already witnessed with her own eyes. Finally, she spoke, her voice steady for the first time since he had found her. She said she was tired of being afraid of powerful men. She wanted to know if he was truly different or just better at hiding it. Dante did not have a perfect answer for her, but he promised her one thing. As long as she stayed under his protection, no one would ever hurt her again. Alina searched his eyes for any sign of a lie and found none. For the first time in longer than she could remember, she allowed herself to believe that safety might not be temporary this time. That night, something between them shifted, quiet and unspoken, but real. Word travels fast in Dante's world, and it did not take long before whispers reached him about a woman named Alina, missing from a powerful family's inner circle. His men, loyal and thorough, dug deeper into her past within days. What they found confirmed his worst suspicions. Victor was not just a controlling partner. He was tied to a rival family, one with a long memory and a dangerous temper, and he was searching for her with growing urgency. Dante sat with the reports late into the night, studying every detail his men had gathered. Victor had been offering money to anyone who could reveal Alina's location. Photos of her had been quietly circulated among certain circles, along with warnings that she belonged to him. The more Dante read, the tighter his hands gripped the edge of the desk. He understood now that hiding her was no longer simple. It was a decision that could shake the fragile peace between powerful families across the city. Still, when he thought about walking away, about sending her somewhere far from his world to keep himself safe from conflict, something in him refused. He remembered her voice in the garden, steady and searching, asking if he was truly different. He intended to prove that he was. Meanwhile, Alina noticed the change in the house. The guards multiplied. The gates were checked more often. Rosa grew quieter, her eyes carrying a new kind of worry. Alina confronted Dante directly, refusing to be kept in the dark any longer. She deserved to know if her past had finally caught up to her, even in this place that had begun to feel like safety. Dante told her everything, holding nothing back this time. He explained what his men had discovered, the danger closing in, and the choice he now faced. Alina listened in silence, her hands trembling slightly, but her expression did not break. Instead, something hardened in her eyes, a kind of quiet determination replacing the fear she had carried for so long. She told him she was done running. She was tired of hiding, tired of being someone else's prize to search for and control. If danger was coming, she wanted to face it, not hide from it in another dark corner of the world. Dante studied her carefully, surprised by the strength rising in her voice, a strength that had been buried under months of fear. Over the following days, Dante prepared his people, tightening security around the house and studying every move Victor's associates made through the city. He made it clear to those loyal to him that Alina was under his protection, absolute and unquestioned. Anyone who threatened her safety would be answering directly to him. Alina, in turn, began to change as well. She stopped flinching at loud noises. She started asking questions about the world around her instead of staying silent in the corner of every room. Rosa noticed it too, remarking quietly to Dante that the frightened woman from the bus stop was slowly disappearing, replaced by someone steadier, someone finding her voice again. But peace rarely lasts long in Dante's world. One quiet afternoon, a message arrived at the gates, short and direct. Victor knew where she was, and he was coming to take her back himself. The house fell into tense preparation, every guard on alert, every door checked twice. Alina stood by the window, watching the gates, her heart pounding but her feet planted firmly on the ground. Whatever was coming, she would not run from it this time. Dante stood beside her, silent and steady, both of them waiting for what would happen next. The tension in the house grew heavier with each passing hour. Guards stood at every entrance, eyes scanning the street beyond the gates. Alina stayed close to the window, watching the empty road, her heart pounding louder than she could ever remember. Dante moved through the house calmly, giving quiet instructions to his men, his voice steady despite the storm building outside. When the cars finally arrived at the gates, the air seemed to freeze. Victor stepped out, dressed sharply, his expression calm on the surface, but his eyes carried a coldness Alina remembered too well. He demanded to see her, claiming she belonged with him, that this was simply a misunderstanding between old partners. Dante walked forward to meet him at the gate, standing firm, refusing to let him take one more step inside. Words were exchanged, sharp and pointed, each man measuring the other carefully. Victor tried to appeal to reason, then to old alliances, reminding Dante of the fragile peace between their families. Dante's answer was simple and unwavering. Alina was no longer his to control, and nothing Victor said would change that fact. The guards on both sides stood tense, waiting for a signal that never came, because Dante made sure this confrontation would end in words, not chaos. From the doorway, Alina watched everything unfold. Her hands trembled, but she forced herself to walk forward, standing beside Dante instead of hiding behind him. Victor's eyes widened slightly at the sight of her standing tall, no longer the frightened woman he remembered controlling so easily. She spoke directly to him for the first time in months, her voice steady despite the fear still coursing through her. She told him she was not coming back. Not now, not ever. Victor's calm expression cracked for just a moment, replaced by something sharper, more desperate. He took a step forward, but the guards around Dante closed in immediately, a silent wall of protection. Dante's voice cut through the tension, low and final, warning Victor that this would be his only chance to walk away peacefully. For a long, heavy moment, no one moved. Finally, Victor stepped back, his jaw tight with anger he could not act on. He knew the numbers were against him, and he knew Dante's reputation was not one to test carelessly. With a final glare toward Alina, he turned and walked back to his car, the engine roaring to life before speeding off into the night. The gates closed slowly behind him, and the tension in the air finally began to lift. Alina let out a breath she had been holding for what felt like forever. Her legs nearly gave out beneath her, but Dante was there instantly, steady and close, making sure she did not fall. For the first time, she allowed herself to lean into his support completely, no longer afraid of what that might mean. Rosa rushed out from the house, relief written across her face as she wrapped a blanket around Alina's shoulders. That night, sitting quietly together on the porch, Alina finally allowed herself to feel something she had almost forgotten. Safety that did not feel temporary. Dante sat beside her, saying little, simply present, giving her the space to breathe after everything that had happened. She looked over at him and realized that somewhere between the bus stop and this porch, everything about her life had changed. And for the first time, that change did not frighten her at all. In the weeks that followed, life in the house began to settle into something calmer, something steadier. Victor's attempts to reach Alina grew fewer, then stopped altogether once word spread that Dante's protection over her was absolute and unshakable. Slowly, the guards at the gate relaxed their constant watch, and the tense atmosphere that once filled every room began to fade into something softer. Alina spent her mornings in the garden now, tending to small plants Rosa had shown her how to grow. It was a simple task, nothing extraordinary, but it gave her a sense of control over something in her life again, something no one could take from her. She found herself smiling more often. Small moments of peace stacking quietly on top of each other, until they became something close to happiness. Dante changed too, in ways his closest people quietly noticed. He still carried the weight of his responsibilities, still moved through his world with the same sharp focus he always had. But something in him had softened. He made time for quiet mornings in the garden with Alina, conversations that had nothing to do with business or danger, just simple moments between two people learning to trust again. One evening, as the sun set behind the tall trees lining the property, Dante found Alina sitting on the same porch where they had waited together after Victor's final visit. He sat beside her, and for a while, neither of them spoke. Finally, Alina broke the silence, telling him she had been thinking about her future, about what she wanted her life to look like now that fear no longer controlled every decision she made. She told him she wanted to stay, not because she needed protection, not because she had nowhere else to go, but because she had found something real in this unexpected place. Dante listened carefully, his expression unreadable at first before something warm broke through, a rare, genuine smile crossing his face. He told her that whatever she chose, whatever path she wanted to take, he would support it completely, but he was glad, more than he could easily express, that she wanted to stay. Word of Victor's network eventually reached the right people, and law enforcement, guided carefully by information that traced back to Dante's careful maneuvering, began closing in on his operations from multiple directions. Within months, Victor's influence crumbled entirely, leaving Alina finally, truly free of the shadow that had followed her for so long. Alina stood in the garden one quiet morning, watching the sunlight spread across the fresh green leaves she had helped grow from nothing. She thought about the frightened woman who had once slept alone at a bus stop, waiting for a bus that would never come, waiting for a life she could not yet imagine. That woman felt distant now, like a memory from someone else's story. Dante joined her outside, standing quietly by her side as he often did now, not needing words to fill every silence between them. Alina reached for his hand, something she would never have imagined doing months earlier, and he held it gently, steady as always. Together they watched the morning unfold, two people who had found something unexpected in each other, something built not on fear, but on quiet strength, patience, and a safety that finally felt permanent.